On the same note, I read somewhere when you were starting your telecom company, when you wanted to start your telecom business, you were turned away because they say the continent was not ready for such. So, based on all that, what do you think are the most important skills for the youth and for entrepreneurs that will carry them through decades from now?
Yeah, I had some tough times. Oh, shoot. Nigeria was tough, you know. We learned a lot of things there. But you know, you've got to take a perspective. See, I would say, you know, that was some good school fees. Now I got a diploma, what should I use it for? So I never get flustered. Because I remember one time I was really flustered. And a friend walked in and said, have you ever been around Parliament Square in London? And there are all those statues. And I said, yes. And she said, you know, funny, isn't it? Each of those people had a critic, but there isn't a statue of the critic. There are no statues of those who will oppose or resist what you've got to do. Okay, what is important is you've got to know the difference between being resilient and being stubborn. I'm not stubborn, but I'm resilient. Stubborn people are not good because they become dogmatic and blinkered. Because there are times I try to do something and I say, hey, this doesn't work. You've got to be able to do that too. And just quietly tiptoe away. But often you will see, as an entrepreneur, you are going to see something before anybody does. I don't know if you've been following my new series on the bandwagon. Yeah. Don't wait until the whole bandwagon is going in front of you and you say, there's an opportunity. It's too late. Okay. You've got to be at the front of the train. Okay. And that's what marks you as an entrepreneur, because the way it works is you have to see. You absolutely have to see. And the seeing is not these eyes. You're seeing like an entrepreneur. And let me tell you, the entrepreneur is not born. He's trained. If some of you think you're born, no, it's not true. You're trained. You train yourself. You train yourself to see and to look at things in a particular way. Sometimes I go into a coffee bar with my kids and I say to them, now this is a business, you know. And they say, really? I said, yes, it's not just a place to drink coffee, it's a business. Now, I want you to look around this business before I leave this place. Tell me how much money they make. Do you do that? When you go on Facebook, it's a business. How do they make their money? WhatsApp, you use it, it's a business. How do they make their money? You train yourself. You just keep training yourself to see things in a particular way. And after a while, it just becomes your way of thinking. Okay, they're all businesses. I love you for being my consumer, but we're not in a consumer discussion. We're in an entrepreneur's discussion. Okay? And it doesn't have to be profit entrepreneurs. You can be a social entrepreneur. There are a lot of social entrepreneurs. In fact, we find sometimes that the biggest things we do on Facebook is when I talk about social entrepreneurs. That's when we get the biggest responses. So a lot of you are trying to solve social problems in a sustainable way, so that we're not relying on donors to do things that we want to do in our own home. Okay? Let's go on social. So this is what I mean about the mindset and the training. It's a consciousness. You just keep working away at it. How do these guys make money? How do they sustain this? Is this going to be sustainable? Just keep asking yourself that question every day, whatever it is you're doing, and before long, you only need to talk to me for 5 minutes, by the way. I can work out what you do, how much money you make, and if you're going to be there in 6 months.
Wow. I will need feedback on that. Africa is a young continent, and its strength lies in its people, the youth. And the youth of Africa are the continent's asset. So what do you think key stakeholders should do now so that the youth remain to be an asset and not become a liability?
You know, I used to have a memento I used to write in my office. And it used to say, the wealth of Africa is in the minds of its people, not in the ground. That's one of the biggest mindsets we need to break. The greatest wealth of this continent is in the minds of its people. That is the greatest potential we have. We have a continent with an average age of 19. That's right. 60% of this continent, would you believe, are under the age of 30. Many of them weren't even born when Mandela left prison. Many of them don't know much about Julius Nyerere, the great man. It's in the books now. At least I had the privilege of knowing it. So this is the continent we're in. It's a continent of young people. Now, is that a liability or is it a great opportunity? I'm on the great opportunity side. But we have some extraordinary challenges, friends. Every week, 500 people are drowning in the Mediterranean Sea. They are Africans. The vast majority of those people are Africans. And before they ever got to the Mediterranean Sea, many of them had crossed the Sahara. The Sahara is littered with bodies. 500 people, young people, going to Europe to look for jobs? Who is going to solve this problem? We are. We, the entrepreneurs of Africa, we have to create the jobs and the opportunities. At least let them be at the border of Tanzania, not on the borders of the Sahara. Let us fight to say, why are they trying to get into Tanzania? We say, oh, because the jobs are in Tanzania. Then you will have done what Julius Nyerere did for the rest of this continent. So we have an urgency. And that's why I'm here. That's why I make the time. The greatest challenge for us is, how do we create jobs? How do we create opportunities? Because yes, we can talk about entrepreneurship, but not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur. Because that is not realistic either. Otherwise, then who would work for who? So we need to have entrepreneurship, but we also need to do skills training. We have to skill up the continent. Because let me tell you, one of the greatest trends we face is the fact that a lot of jobs are also going to disappear with the new technologies that are driving through. They will take our jobs. Now, should we be afraid? No, we will not be afraid. We will generate the global Googles of Africa, but they will not go under names like Google. They will come from Africa. They will have names from our languages, from our continent. That's why I chose Kwese.
Mr. Masiyiwa, you have written before that your words are your brand. What do you mean by that?
Wow, I wrote that?
Yes.
You know, I remember that. You know, we live in a time when everything you say will soon be a record. Isn't that extraordinary? Everything you say. When you write on Facebook, WhatsApp, when you write on LinkedIn, today let me tell you, in some of the biggest companies in the world, you apply for a job, they say, can we have access to your social media footprint? So that they can learn about you. So now is the time to practice being careful with what you say. You don't have to, you're either going to succeed or fail in future based on what you said or didn't say. May sound biblical to some, but your words matter. The words reflect the true character of the person. They say that you are really who you are when you are speaking, thinking there's no one listening. Okay, so we got to be careful with our words. That's why I say your words are your brand. If you want to know who you are, watch what you're saying, how you're saying it. You can have an argument, but do you have to use it? Do you have to pile insults on the other person before your point goes across? Not necessarily so. So this is what I meant by your word is your brand.
What words, now that we're talking about words, what words do you live by?
Well, you know, I am a very spiritual person, so I very much spend a tremendous amount of time in prayer and meditation. But you know, at the end of the day, the most important words we can have is to love our neighbor, which means we have to be tolerant. Your neighbor doesn't have to look or think or pray as you do. Yes, including pray as you do. Okay? Let God sort that out. But let's be tolerant towards one another. We live in a time of extreme connectivity. And yet part of the danger we have, particularly with social media, is it drives us to our likes, which makes us never hear what we don't like. Now you can walk into a shop and because you bought something last week, the supermarket is pushing it to you because social media cookies are following you around. Okay? But we have to, it means we have to force ourselves to listen to people who we do not necessarily agree with, and to respect what they do and where they come from. It includes race, it includes tribe, all these issues, because that is your neighbor. So that's what I want to leave you on. Let us develop a tolerant continent. Tolerant to differences, tolerant to even things you don't agree with. Just respect it and give room to your neighbor.